least early tomorrow, this will become a podcast, so you can take that, refer it to people, share it with people you know on Facebook or whatever, and help get the word out. And my guest today is Sean Cummings, and Sean and I don't know where we originally met, to tell the truth. Probably out on the front line somewhere. You know?
That's right. Protesting something somewhere, somehow, more than likely.
Yeah, which doesn't narrow it down in Oklahoma because there's so many ugly things to protest here.
That is a fact. Hey, thanks for having me on today, though.
No, thank you for coming on. First of all, I want to thank you and Cathy for everything you've done, because to meet people who aren't afraid to be outspoken, and we always say Cathy has a little nicer demeanor. No, not nicer, softer demeanor than you do, perhaps.
She is the much softer, prettier side than I am. But here's the thing. For every beautiful, lovely, pretty woman that gets to walk down the street, she needs a bulldog on a chain next to her to keep the creeps away.
Okay.
And I evidently occasionally get to play that bulldog.
Yes.
And you know what? I do it voluntarily because people will listen to her easier because she's easier on the eyes and she delivers a message in a softer, cleaner way. And sometimes I don't necessarily deliver it in that manner, you know, but I want to get things done, and she wants to get things done, and she attracts more bees with honey, and sometimes I probably have a little bit too much vinegar.
That is quite
to use
possible.
my mother's terminology.
that is quite possible. But in the end, though, and I say the same thing about her and I, she has a different approach than I do. I'm a little closer to you. I'm a little too blunt sometimes. But as I got to know her and you, I realized that we're fighting for exactly the same things. You guys actually lived on minimum wage for 30 days.
That is right.
Just to know what it felt like to try to get by on less money than it costs to get by.
Here's the thing that most people don't realize with that, and for those of you that are from out of Oklahoma that are going to hear this, just so you know, my wife ran for lieutenant governor in the last election. And Cathy, most people don't realize this because she's extremely attractive and looks like she's came from money, and she did not. She came from very humble upbringings, and she was a single mom with 3 kids when I met her, and she had 3 jobs, one at the YMCA running a thing called Kids Gym, which you'd drop your kids off at this daycare area, and she would run them through these calisthenics and these obstacle courses and all this stuff, and the job paid like $8 an hour. She worked as a waitress at a restaurant called Stroud, serving pan-fried chicken, and she worked at her family's Italian deli. And those were the 3 jobs she had. So she wasn't foreign to hard work. She wasn't foreign to the extreme hardships of single motherhood. But coming from a larger Italian family, they all helped her raise her kids. And so when we got married, it did make it a little easier on her because she had a full family. But we ended up with 5 children instead of the 3 that she had before. So money was still tight, but she was no longer living on that extremely tight leash of every penny mattering. And when you go to run for office, people just assume you have money or you wouldn't be able to run for office, right? You've been there.
Absolutely.
Right. They'll just think you've got to be rich or you wouldn't be able to do it. And we were looking at the real issues of the day, and ours is, you know, we own restaurants, and the lowest paid employee in our restaurants are $9.50 an hour, way, way, way above minimum wage. And that's just a starter salary. And so we just can't believe that there's people out there that pay people $7.25 an hour to do a job. And because we just don't believe it's ethical. Because there's absolutely no way on earth, and gas was $3.50 an hour, $3.50 a gallon at the time, that you can make it when half of an hour's worth of work buys 1 gallon of gas, and usually you have to have a cruddy old car at the time that's getting maybe 8 miles to the gallon.
Yeah.
So we decided we were going to live on minimum wage for the month, and here's the facts of the matter. 2 business owners, both well-educated, successful entrepreneurs, failed. And we didn't just fail. We failed miserably. And these are people with money skills, environmental skills. We supposedly are creative, and we could both cook. I'm an actual chef. She's an actual chef. We could do things that other people don't even have skill-wise and still failed miserably. And in our community, you know, our kids were fortunate enough we were able to send them to private schools. In the community we live in, you hear a lot of people talk down to the poor. And they don't do it because they dislike poor people. They just don't have any exposure to them. And so in their world, they only hear negatives about poor people. And with us living it firsthand and watching people that they considered successful fail at it, it gave people such a different perspective. You just can't even imagine it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the videos you guys put out were great, by the way, and I know you self-produce a lot of those. And to watch you, come on and say, we're losing weight, we're becoming sick, we are not, we're losing our energy, we're not able to get up and function properly each day simply because we can't feed ourselves well. And you didn't even have that long-term thing of, oh, crap, my car broke down, now I'm homeless.
Oh, right.
My child got sick, I have no insurance, I can't take them to the doctor, I missed work, I was 20 minutes late, which I gave a girl a ride one day who literally, I was out campaigning, and she was walking down the street and her car had broken down, and she had a handful of video games of her kids that she was trying to take somewhere to sell, to pawn, so that she could make it to work and wouldn't lose her job.
Right. Oh,
and which I had, I'm broke, but I'm not broke.
There's a big difference between that kind of broke and what you and I say is broke. Right.
Exactly. I'm actually in debt, but I can still go out and hand her $20, give her a ride to work, and hear her stories on the way, and find out that her actual, what we would call disposable income, and by that I mean bare minimum for food. Her sister watches the kids. She doesn't even hire daycare. No child gets a cold or the flu and has to go to the doctor. She had $5 a week left over. That was her extra money in case something goes wrong. And that's the norm. That's the norm.
Well, here's something you got to throw in there. Let me throw a caveat in here real quick, just to throw a 25-cent word out there. Okay, so you go buy $20 worth of groceries. Of your $5 there, $1.60 of it just went to sales tax. Yeah. You're contributing to a tax system that you can't afford to contribute to. You had $5 and $1.60 of it just went to sales tax.
Yep.
But yet the top rung is getting a break on their income tax. Yeah. And and God knows Cathy and I were called nasty names and everything else because of being Democrats, oddly enough, of all things, and from working people. It was usually from working people. It wasn't from people that were in a different social class. They were people that were in our same social class that were horrible about it. And for some reason or another, because there's just so much media on one side that consider us all to be degenerates for some reason or another for trying to look out for them, because I want that lady to be able to make more money.
Right.
And it isn't that I want her business owner to go broke. But if he's living in a $500,000 house and she's only got $5 a week of disposable income, something's wrong.
Yeah. Well, I will say this: the $500,000 house. I ran a very high-end tile and marble company for 25 years while I was raising my kids. I worked in $10 million homes in Gallardia. I actually worked in a $15 million home once. Wow. $1 million plus for a house was nothing. That was, and they would say, well, we're not like the rich people, meaning we're only in $1 million home, and that guy over there is in a $10 million. Right. And I would write things about Gallardia.
Right.
And it turns out some of my clients were reading it.
That doesn't work out well.
They say, oh, well, you're not talking about us. You're talking about those rich people.
The next guy.
We barely get by in our $1 million home, with our $250,000 plus a year income or whatever it is. When in reality, you hit a level, you don't need an 8,000 square foot house for 3 people to live in. No. You just don't.
You're just hiding from whoever you're living with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Truth to be told.
Yes, people deserve to make a comfortable income. None of us, and you don't either. You don't say, well, we want to take all your money. Everybody deserves to be comfortable.
Right.
But when you hit filthy rich, you actually are taking it out of somebody else's pocket, generally.
There comes a point where when I get up from the couch, and this is what we learned on the minimum wage thing, if I get up from the couch and I'm dizzy because I can't eat enough protein, but I'm still working 40 hours a week, And that's all I can afford to eat. And I'm eating at home. I'm not. Here's the thing. Everybody goes, well, you can get on food stamps. And I said, but I thought the point was you wanted me to work full time and not be on food stamps and not be on government assistance. All I can afford then is beans and rice and an occasional banana. So I'm showing you what it's really like.
That's right.
And here's what happens. When I get up, I'm lightheaded. I literally can't think properly. I can't sleep properly. My body doesn't react properly. Now, that's a person working full time. Is that how we want our society to live? And then I'm in constant, never-ending fear if my bicycle gets a flat tire because I have no other mode of transportation. I can't walk that far to work because I'm already too skinny. And here's the thing. People go, well, I know poor people that are fat. And I go, I know a bunch of people that are fat. Here's a weird thing. You go to the store when you're broke and you're hungry, that 99-cent bag of potato chips talks to you like a heroin addict.
Yep.
It's amazing the things that go through your mind when you're hungry. And people that haven't been hungry just don't understand it.
Yeah, and plus you're working extra hours. A lot of these people are working more than 40 hours, so therefore they don't have time to cook.
God, no.
Crappy corn dogs,
healthy.
crappy cheap corn dogs are what you can afford, the really horrible foods. We're getting ready to go to break, and when we come back, oddly enough, the things you're getting ready to do all tie in to what we're talking about now. They tie into poverty. They tie into the prisons. They tie in to the way corporate welfare. It really is a big circular issue, and all of it feeds the other. So everybody stay with us. This is Red State Radio. We will be right back in about 2 minutes.